What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And today it's another look at the bets for the weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. There's loads of events this weekend. We have UFC, Bellator, PFL and Cage Warriors to look at. This weekend, I have taken bets from 3 of those events. We'll have a look at the other one as well towards the end when I wrap up the betting preview. And do you know what? There's no... well, there are a few very good fights, to be honest, but it's not the best weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. If we're being honest, there aren't loads of amazing fights all over the place in terms of jeopardy, in terms of titles, in terms of even title implications. You know, we have PFL, which always has implications in all of their fights, and we have a UFC main event, which usually has implications as well, but, you know, not definitely, if you want to put it that way. So, yeah, that doesn't mean the betting changes, though, because I've picked out a few bets that I like and that I think are good and that I think will come out, so we'll have a look and see. Last week we had a pretty good week. One of the fights fell out. It's actually, I believe it's going to be on this week, so that's Renan Lips gift. So if you like 6 bets, you can have 6 bets here. But of the 3 bets left, 2 of them came out, so that's pretty good. And the Flier, you know, as the Flier tends to do, didn't win. So but I'll take that. 2 out of 3 ain't bad on a week. So you know, we had the over plus 143. And we had Akhmedov as well in the PFL, was plus 170. So, you know, all of those PFL playoffs are paid off. And I have a couple more bets for PFL here as well. And we will, hopefully they will come up as well. So we will get to them. First of all, I want to talk Bellator. And my first bet of the week is from Bellator. And I assume my Bellator preview will be out before this. And I've changed. I gave a pick on that, and I've changed that pick, and I'm going for Goiti Yamauchi to win at plus 160. The reason I'm doing that is kind of twofold, really. Like, okay, let's say if it turns into an all-out standing matchup. Now, I talked in the preview about that, and I said, and I kind of stick by it. If it does stay like that, I think Gracie has like a big jabbing advantage. I think if he can keep it long, land his jab over and over and over, he could win a 5-round fight like that. And we've seen him, you know, do that before, maybe not for 5 rounds, but for large portions of fights. And he has the ability to do that. He has a good jab even. But if you look at Yamauchi, and especially his fights recently, he has won fights on the feet that, you know, haven't got it. So if you look at it, and both of these guys are submission artists. He has won fights, you know, by decision. He has not just relied on his ability to submit someone. He won 2 fights ago. He won by knockout as well. Now, he has obviously lots of submissions, but he decision of Daniel Weichel as well and a few other lads. And I do think gone back and watched a bit of his striking. He is a guy who's more patient with it. And more patient with the takedown, and more patient with the ability to get the fight to the ground as well. But he can come inside and land some body shots, and, you know, he's not necessarily a small man, but at 5'10", if you compare him to Gracie, who is 6 foot, there isn't much of a difference there, really. You know, a couple of inches. So if he can kind of keep away from that jab and land a few shots inside, I think, look, based on today's scoring system, as we all know it by now, it's based on, you know, damage and the impact of those strikes rather than the strikes itself. And if he can come inside and land some powerful shots while getting kind of jabbed up, that could be enough to win him round. So I kind of rethought that maybe a little bit. I think Yamauchi probably has more experience fighting on the feet in that sort of manner, you know, against guys more kind of evenly matched. Like Weichel is a good fighter, and others as well. I know parts of whatever fights we might be looking at might have hit the ground, he might have dominated as well. But I just having a little bit more of a think about it. I don't think it's as quick or as easy as saying, oh yeah, Gracie's a good jab, he'll probably win. Now, he might, but I think that price is good as well. I think that price of plus 160 in a very even fight, like either guy could win this, I think it's very good. My second point about it is, as I try to clean the dirt off my top, but it won't come off, I think if the fight does hit the ground, I sometimes you look at these matchups, right, and you go, who has the better jiu-jitsu? I think you should look and say who has the better wrestling at times. Because let's say if the jiu-jitsu nullifies it out. And now, nullifies is an interesting word, right, when you talk about jiu-jitsu. Because getting caught in a submission and not getting submitted is not nullifying it. It's like not getting caught in a submission. It's like realizing the moves your opponent is about to make 2 or 3 steps down the line and making moves to stop the third move he makes in 7 seconds time, if you get me. So I think that Yamauchi might be able to have a more maybe domineering style on the ground, and I think he might have better wrestling as well to get Gracie down if he chooses to do that. If the fight hits the ground and it's kind of a scramble or something like that, who will be the guy to get on top, I think is what I'm trying to say here. And I think that might be Yamauchi. And if he does that and he lands a few shots, it's more than likely a fight that there's not going to be massive impact. I'm talking about in the feed that the slightly more impactful shots are going to win it for Yamauchi. If that is the case and the fight gets to the ground, let's say he has 3 minutes of top control, right? The top control is not going to score for him. But if he lands 20 shots in that 3 minutes of top control, if he, 1-1-2, body, head, that will win him the round, not the top control, I'll say it again, but the shots there. And when I see that, I picture Yamauchi, the guy landing those shots. That'll be the winning and losing of the fight, honestly. Those two things, I think those two things will be the winning and losing of the fight. I don't think there'll be a big knockout here. If someone did get it, I think it would probably be Yamauchi. I don't think there'll be a submission here. I think they're probably both equally likely to get that. Maybe Gracie a little bit more than Yamauchi. Honestly, I'm not too sure. I asked my guy Harry Powell, who's the BJJ expert, and he kind of, said the same thing this week. But I do think the wrestling advantage might be there slightly to Yamauchi, and maybe not even the wrestling advantage, maybe the scrambling advantage or the speed scrambling advantage. And in a fight of such small margins, I think those two things are pretty big, to be honest. So that's the reason I've kind of flipped after thinking about it more, and I'm going for Yamauchi here. So plus 160, first bet of the week, Goiti Yamauchi to win here over at Bellator. My second bet of the week is in the heavyweight division, and I'm going for Steve Mowry to beat Valentin Moldavsky at plus, I'm just looking here again, plus 185. I really like Steve Mowry. I think he is very, very good. He's a massive man. He can do it all. He's obviously a great record. What is he, 10-0? If you look at his last few fights as well, right? He fought Raheem Cleveland, who I watched. I obviously did the preview for that, and I watched a lot of Raheem Cleveland, or as much as I could find of him anyway. And he's a big, tall, athletic hitter, right? And for Mowry to go in there and beat him as quickly as he did, it might seem like Raheem Cleveland doesn't have the greatest record, some might call him a journeyman or whatever, but to go in and beat him the way he did so easily and not even be like tested by just the physicality he brought even, I think that was massive. The same could go for Gökhan Sakidam. He just beat him, he beat him easily in the first minute of the second round. Syed Soma beat him as well. So he's beaten, I would argue, 2 at least of the top 10 heavyweights in that division, and I think Raheem Cleveland could probably be in there as well. I think that guy is underrated just because of his record and maybe maybe some deficiencies, but I think that the good points that he has are a test for Mowry. So, but anyway, that's beside the point. Look, this is another step up again. We're let's be real about it. We talked last week about Jamal Hill. It was another step up to take on Thiago Santos. I actually think this is a very similar sort. I think it's more of a step up, but a similar sort of matchup in that step up, where it's a really good, solid guy who's 30 years of age. He's 13 fights into his career, but those 13 fights, they came over 7 years, and there's a lot of experience in those 13 fights. You've Linton Vassell, Java Ayala, Ryan Nelson, Tim Johnson, all wins in a row, and then obviously the loss to Ryan Bader by decision. I'm very interested to see if, like that fundamental good game from Moldavsky will be enough to win against a physical phenom, I suppose, like Steve Mowry. Well, I'll tell you again, 6'1" for Moldavsky. For Mowry, 6'8". So he's, 7 inches taller than him. That's a massive difference. Like, these lads are fighting at heavyweight. They're used to being the bigger man. I know myself. I'm used to being bigger than most people. When I stand alongside, even someone tall, even someone like an MVP who's a welterweight, but he's so tall. I'm like, oh, hello, and it puts you off a little bit. Now, I'm sure Moldavsky is trained and he has brought people in, but I think it's a very, very hard thing to prepare for. And Mowry's fighting out of Sanford MMA as well. Those lads, Henry Hooft, he's used to training tall heavyweights down through the years, I'm sure. And he has him looking great here. He's not just a knockout artist either. He's 6 submissions and 4 KOs. And a lot of Kimura as well. I mentioned I was talking to Harry Powell this week as well, and I have, and he kind of made the point that about the Kimura. I've been talking about this Kimura for the last while, saying people need to use the Kimura more to sweep. And I think when getting taken down, now not on the ground or as much maybe, but the Kimura is kind of a dying art. We don't see it that much anymore. We definitely don't see people finishing with it. And that's grand. That's because jiu-jitsu has become more even throughout. But to see people sweeping with it, I think should be more common, because I think I know nothing about it from a technical point of view, but when I look with my eyes and I see it, and I see people using Kimuras, especially when just being taken down, it seems to work pretty well. Anyway, Mowry has Kimura as finishes on his record, and a key lock in there as well. He has a very, very, very good Kimura. And I think if you're Moldavsky and you're struggling with that 7-inch advantage, you try to take him down. If he gets caught in a Kimura straight away, that could be curtains for him, because Mowry is so good at it. So that gives you another method of victory there for Mowry, even if he happens to be taken down or anything like that. So, yeah, I really like Mowry in this. I think he has big head kicks. I think his jab is very good. I think he's powerful. And as I said, that Kimura as well, and that jiu-jitsu is very, very good. Moldavsky will want to make this an even fundamental striking battle where he is, pop to the body, out again, pop inside, out again. Whereas Mowry will be happy to fight on the outside, but he will want to be landing shots from the outside, and Moldavsky will want to be all the way out or all the way in. And the speed advantage will be the thing here for Moldavsky. I don't think he's the fastest guy in the world. That's why I'm probably leaning against him more so than anything. But it's a massive fight for the division, a massive fight for Mowry. I believe in Mowry. I've watched all of his recent fights. I think he's very, very good, and I'm going for him here to win this one, a plus 185. Right, next bet here. Next couple I'm going for are from the PFL. And the first one I'm going for is my countryman, Will Fleury. Now, if you look at Will Fleury and you see his record recently, you're probably thinking, well, that's a pretty good pick. And now it's minus 200 as well. Let me say that. But I think that price is very, very good for who Will Fleury is fighting, and for how good he actually is as a fighter. I'm actually looking at it now. Sorry, it's gone down to minus 190. You can get it as low as minus 185 in some places, but minus 190 it's gone down to now. So that's interesting as well. I'm not sure why it's gone down to minus 190 if you look at his opponent. So Will Fleury's fighting Ante Salamone, and I went back and I watched as many Salamone fights as I could find, and if I'm being honest, he's not great. The records of the guys he's fought as well, he's fought one guy with a good record who was 5-1 and went to a split decision with him. He's won all of his fights now, to be fair, so I'm not throwing him out. I'm not saying he's useless or anything, but the ability of the guys who he has fought has been very, very questionable, if you want to put it that way. And watching him, he is a big, when I say big for that, do you know what he is? Fighting a middleweight, he's like a blown up welterweight with a big upper body. strong as an ox, bulls across the cage and takes lads down. That's what Salamone is, right? And Will Fleury is a nightmare for someone like that, I would think, because Will Fleury is really, really strong. He's big and tall, but he's a very good wrestler. He is a guy who will see you coming at him head first. He will go at you head first and usually win that sort of fight. He's an absolute bull of a man altogether. He loves catching lads, picking them up, putting them on their arse and beating them on top. Landing elbows, landing shots, getting into half guard and winning fights like that. Now, his last fight, he won 5 rounds on the feet, jabbing up a guy. And he won the UAE Warriors title doing that. And a very, very good win over Tarek Suleiman, who he beat before as well, who's come around and got more wins and got back. But it was a very, very good performance. And I believe he was injured going into that fight as well, or, had to change up his game to fight that way. He beat Ken Kapainen as well before that, and on a 3-5 win streak, beat Justin Moore. He took a fight in the middle of that over at EFM. I think it was on short notice in the middle of the pandemic. Ended up losing that one, but it was, you could kind of write that off a little bit. And he's only lost in recent times. Before that was to Norbert Navini Jr., in my opinion, is probably top 3 or 4, maybe top 5 best prospects in the world, until he unfortunately did his ACL. So Will Fleury, he's been beating basically everyone that's been put in front of him that's at a similar level to him. And I think that will be the case here again. I think the minus 190 price is a steal, honestly. Unless Salamone is able to rise level. It's tough as well to look at someone like Salamone, right, and see the level of fighters he's fighting and see him kind of dominating them, but while not looking great at the same time, if you get me. If he was in there with an even matchup and he didn't look great, but he came out winning, you could say, okay, this guy is a winner. He's got in there, it's a tough battle, and he's winning the fights. Like Will Fleury's had a few fights like that. But the level of opposition means a lot in that sort of fight. If he's got in there and kind of making it look hard against nobody's, basically, well, that's not a great thing. Now, I'm not saying he has done that, but he hasn't... He hasn't blown me away. If you want a guy in showcase fights, they should be showcasing you to be an excellent fighter, and I don't think they have necessarily done that from what I've seen anyway. So if he's made it a victory here is to bull across the cage, take Will Fleury down and dominate him on top. And I just think that's going to be really, really hard because of all I've seen of Will Fleury over the years, because he is so strong, because he doesn't really let that happen, and he does that to you. And he's tall, and he's a good jab, and he's good at keeping lads off him. I think it's a very, very tough matchup for Salamone, and that's why I've gone for Will Fleury at minus 190. I think that's a steal. Honestly, I think it's a steal of a price. I think it's very, very good, and that's definitely a bet I'm going for it this weekend. As I coughed a bit here. My next bet, I'm going for Ante Delija to beat Renan Ferreira. And he's actually gone out in price. He was plus 105 yesterday. He's plus 115 now, and I'm definitely going for him at that price. I think they've gotten this one backwards, if I'm being honest. I really, really do. Now, if you look at the record of Delija over the last while, I think it tells a story. He's only lost since he's been in the PFL, has been to Bruno Capelozza. Now, he lost twice to Bruno Capelozza, but he's beaten everyone else, since. His last loss, who's not Bruno Capelozza, was 7 years ago against Marcin Tybura. His last loss before that was back in 2014 after, which he went on a 5 or 6 fight win streak after that. So this guy just isn't losing to anybody and everybody. He's beaten Denis Skoltsov, who's a really good fighter. He's beaten Matthias Scheffel, who beat Bruno Capelozza. Honestly, I remember after that fight, everyone was probably listening to my preview thinking oh God, this guy Scheffel is useless because Ante Delija made him look like that. Now, I'll tell you about Ante Delija first. So, if you look at the flag alongside his name, he's a Croatian. You think about Croatians and you think, and he's fighting out a Krokop top team as well. So it's very easy to think this guy's going to be an all-out kickboxing striker animal. He's not. He's a wrestler. He goes in there, he takes lads down, he dominates them on top, and is very, very, very good at it. Now he can kickbox as well. He's improving. I see on Sherdog here, it says his style is judo, and that would be a good style, probably better than me saying wrestling. He is very, very heavy on top, very, very heavy takedowns, and just a very good fighter all around. He's fighting Renan Ferreira, who is a very good fighter as well, but he's a finisher. You know, he is absolutely a finisher. 9 wins, 8 finishes. 7 by knockout. His last, his last 2 knockouts in a row, 25 seconds, 31 seconds. That tells you all you need to know about Renan Ferreira. And he comes in, he throws big flying knees, big shots. He's massive guy, 6'8" tall, really, really big and just a powerful brute. Now, the difference between this and the other fight is Ante Delija is 6'5". So that height advantage isn't as much. Okay, 3 inches still an advantage without a shadow of a doubt, but it isn't as much. I think Ferreira has to get this done early, and I think if he doesn't, Delija will walk this, honestly. And he absolutely could. If you want to, double down and go double up your money here or whatever, or what's that phrase called? Double down on it. You could go maybe Ferreira early. Ferreira round 1, whatever that price is. Maybe we'll pull it up here and we'll see in a second if the bets are up. And Delija to win a decision or Delija to win after that. Just Delija straight up maybe. Because I think that's the way it goes. If Ferreira doesn't win early in the first, I think Delija is good enough to land enough shots actually to probably take away even his ability to win early in the second, if you get me. I really rate Ante Delija. I think he's very, very good. 21-5. As I said, doesn't lose that often for a heavyweight. For a heavyweight, not to lose that often is, is unbelievable, really. And I think he'll win here. I really do. I like Ferreira. I really like his style. He's my sort of fighter. But I think Ante Delija is a bad matchup for him, and I think he'll win this one. So, yeah, those are the 4 straight up bets I'm going for. And my 5th is from the UFC, and I'm going for Onama to win by a TKO KO in round 1 at plus 425. And honestly, I'm a big fan of Onama. I think he's very, very good. And he is big power, can land it as well, is smart with it. The one thing I would say here, the interesting thing I think is the fact that it's looking like this is the co-main event now. And there might be an extra bit of pressure with that, which might be good or bad, It might be good or bad. Like David Onama, he's gone out and he's knocked out in the first round. He's knocked out Gabriel Benitez, knocked out before that, 4 lads in 5 fights. He's finished them in the first round. There's been a couple of submissions thrown in there as well. Now, Landwehr is not necessarily a bad fighter either, and I don't think he's a walkover by any means either. But his last two losses, first round knockouts to Julian Erosa and Herbert Burns. And with all due respect, I think David Onama is probably is he a better fighter than both of those? I think he probably is. His only loss in a long time, his only loss ever is to Mason Jones, who is a very, very good fighter. He didn't look at maybe in his last fight, but he is a very, very good fighter. Whereas Landwehr, the guys he has lost to Julian Rosa, a good fighter. Herbert Burns, a good fighter as well, but I don't think they're on that level. So I think Onama, like if you look at Landwehr, he's a good wrestler, dominant on top. He can strike. And he's going to need to get Onama down early and often. And if he doesn't, I think it's going to be an issue for him. And to be honest, I don't think he will. I think Onama's going to keep this on the feed. I think he's going to push on those shoulders, get him off, pull out those legs. Landwehr is going to stand up, and it's going to be a big head kick or a big flying knee or a big right hand or something like that. That's going to take him out. And to do it early, I think that's a great price. We look at the other prices in that fight later on. But to knock him out in round 1 at plus 425, when he's been doing it so often, when it's happened to Landwehr twice in a row in fights he's lost, I think that's a great price. So that's my flyer of the week. Onama wins TKO in round 1, TKO/KO in round 1 at plus 425. Right, let's look through some of the bets for the week. So let's start at Bellator. And obviously the main event, Yamauchi and Gracie, as I said, plus 160. I see him as from plus 140 up to plus 180 here in some places. So there's lots of different prices here in Yamauchi. Gracie's around minus 185. Interesting, the submission prices here. So Yamauchi plus 1100 to get the submission, Gracie plus 300. So they do favor Gracie's submission game over here. They're around the same to get the KO, plus 425 for Yamauchi, plus 450 for Gracie. I definitely think, look, that's the right in terms of who's the favourite there, but I would think Yamauchi should be probably more of a favourite in that one. Fight to go to decision, plus 120. It's a 5-round fight. I like that, actually. I think that's a good bet, to be honest. Plus 120, fight to go to decision, minus 150, not to go to decision. I probably wouldn't be betting that. The over 3.5 rounds is minus 130 as well. So, yeah, that's not a bad bet. That is not a bad bet there. Mowry and Moldavsky, plus 185, minus 220 favourite Moldavsky. I think those lines are too far apart, honestly, if I'm definitely being honest there. The over 2.5 rounds is minus 120, under minus 110. If you fancy Moldavsky to get the KO, it is plus 450. If you fancy Mowry, plus 325. That's not a bad bet at all. Moldavsky minus 750 for the submission. If you fancy Mowry to get that Kimura, plus 650. Plus 650 for Mowry. To Mowry. Why am I saying it like he's from New Zealand? Mowry. I'll be doing the hack out. But yeah, plus 650 to get the submission there. Neiman and McFarlane, she's favourite for this fight. Anywhere from around minus 155 to minus 135 there. I actually see her, she's minus 163 here in one place as well. So she's a good favourite over Bruna Ellen, who's around minus 120-ish. Gokin Sakadem then. He's the favourite. I think that has switched, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at the prices here. Well, it hasn't necessarily switched, but he's gone from minus 115 to minus 167. So he's definitely opened up in price. He's actually minus 180 here. I'm looking at now. Plus 155 for Said Soma. I think that is honestly right. Yeah, and I'm right, because I'm looking at minus 115. Soma he's all the way out to to plus 155 now. So there's been a big swing in that fight over the last couple of weeks. A big swing. That's interesting to see how that will go. It's a tough one to pick. I would probably just go with Sakadam if I'm being honest, but I probably watch more of Soma, and maybe that's a good thing and a bad thing if we're looking at it that way. Aaron Jeffrey, Austin Vanderfort in. Vanderfort minus 200, plus 170. I think that's a good price on Vanderfort, if I'm being honest. I think people may be overrating the win that Mousasi got against him. I think he was injured at the very start of that fight. I don't think he's as bad of a fighter as that one maybe looked him, so I think that's probably a good price on him there. Brett Boy, another wrestler coming in here. He is plus 101. That's interesting. Over, minus 121. Don't know that much about him, so it's interesting. Josh Hill, minus 172, plus 147 for Brino. Deanna Bennett, who beat Justin Keish last time, she's favoured again, minus 255, plus 215 for Keish. Here, if you like Keish's improvements, she talked a good game since that, I suppose, maybe, but I don't think so. Then you have some of the wrestlers. Sullivan Colley minus 1,000 against Tyson Jeffries even. Then we've Patrick Downey, my guy, minus 1,300, plus 675 for Jeff Soder. I don't think that's a bad price in Soder, if I'm being honest. Like in that interview with Pat Downey, he was kind of saying to me that he wasn't really training, and that he was training in one place, and then he didn't really have striking coaches, and I don't know. He didn't fill me with confidence, honestly, in that interview. So I would look, he's an unbelievable wrestler, and he'll probably still win that. But if you want to have a bit of a flyer, if you can get a plus, I see plus 750 here in one place, plus 800 in one place on Soder. Maybe throw a fiver at that you never want to see again, and maybe. Isaac Kokett then is minus 800 as well. Brett Schaffenfelder minus 1,300, so a lot of big favourites here on this card, minus 700 for McKee as well. Right, we'll pop back to the UFC in a second. Let's talk about PFL first, then we'll go to Cage Warriors. Ben Ellis, Nathan Kelly. I was talking about this one in the preview, very interesting one, and I just had it about right. I think Nathan Kelly minus 190. Ben Ellis minus 190. Nathan Kelly, the underdog, at plus 165. I think that's just about right, but Nathan Kelly is probably a better fighter than that price suggests, and I think he's improved an awful lot. I think it's slightly more even than that, but I would just have Ben Ellis as the favourite. Very good wrestler. I'd probably avoid betting on this fight though, because I with Nathan Kelly, obviously he's Irish, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but he's improved over his last couple of fights. And if you're looking at all of his fights together, maybe you're saying, yeah, that price is fair, but I think there's big improvements in his game, and his early couple of losses don't maybe suggest he is as good as that as a price should suggest. So I'd probably avoid this one. Maybe betting him next time and see how this one goes. Fleury and Salamone -190 plus 165. No inside the distance prices or anything like that. No props up yet. So we unfortunately have to avoid them. Ferreira -135. Delija plus 115. Maxim Radu and Barbrick. Radu is the underdog there, plus 160, -185 for his opponent. And then we have the other playoff games. As I mentioned, Delija, the underdog there against Ferreira, plus 115, -135 for Ferreira. Carlos Leal, then he is... they're just about even there, Leal and C. -110, -110, one place, -103 for Miranda. He's actually the favourite now. And C is -117. So that definitely has switched as well since I did my preview the other day. Very interesting. Umalatov is a big favourite, -330, plus 270 for Rory McDonald, plus 270 for Rory McDonald. Interesting price there. I said this a couple of times this week now. I think Rory McDonald at his best beats Umalatov, even though Umalatov is very, very good. But I just don't think Rory McDonald is at his best anymore. Denis Goltsov, then he is a big favourite, -310 over Matthias Scheffel. If Scheffel fights the way he fought the last time, that plus 260 will look a good price. Not sure it's going to end up that way though. So there's some other fights as well. Josh O'Connor -300 over Imran there, who is plus 250. Simon Bejar plus 140, -160 for Hayef Moel as well there. So yeah, that card is kind of stacked out there with a few fights that will be interesting. Cage Warriors flyweight title fight. The Sam Gracie, who is he the champion? Is he not the champion? It's hard to know with these days with Cage Warriors. I think it could be vacant. There's missed weights. The fight was supposed to, I don't know. Anyway, Sam Gracie's fighting Stipe Biric for that, plus 115, -145. Interesting there. George McManus is back. He's -160, plus 130 for Alfonso Cabral. Chris Bungard, who we've seen in Bellator and other places, plus 170, -210 for Eric Da Silva. Owain Williams plus 191, -241 for Ireland's own Sean McCormack. Lupoli and AB is the favourite there, -300, plus 240 for the Italian. Scott Pedersen, I'm a big fan of Scott Pedersen. Not the best record in the world, but I think people know because he's price here is -200, plus 160 for Larossi. I like Pedersen at that price. I think he'll win that fight. Then we have Stephanie Evans, -150, plus 120 for Favaro. And then the two big fights of the night for me outside of the main event are Josh Reed against Bogdan Barbu. Reed is -300, plus 240 for Barbu. You don't see Reed being a favourite like that often, so I would suggest the matchup is like that. What a fight this is. Matthew Bonner against Oban Elliott, plus 150 for Oban, -180 for Matthew Bonner. I think that's just about right, to be honest. Oban is an absolute gangster for taking all of these hard fights over and over and over again. Fought Mike Figlak, fought what was your man? The Siberian Express the last time out. Just taking so many tough fights, or the Moldovan Express. I don't know, I can't remember. But yeah, another one here against the former champion Matt Bonner, who's coming down to 170. Really tough fight, but can Oban do it? It'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting. But plus 150. I don't think I'd be going for that if I'm honest, but I think that's around the right price. And then let's talk about UFC. Let's go from the bottom to the top maybe here. Yusuf Jalal is fighting Damon Blackshear, -130 for Jalal. I think he's a good fighter. I think he'll win that, plus 110 for Damon. Lipsky again is on this card, -190 against Cachoeira. I'll go for her again this week, plus 165. I think this Wick Quinlan fight was moved as well, with plus 210. -250 for Quinlan. I like all the odds around. A big fan of his. I think he'll beat Tyson Nam, -245. Maybe trying to an accumulator. Plus 210 for Nam. Lupi Godinez. Another one to try and turn the accumulator. I think she'll win that against Angela Hill. She's minus 300 plus 250 for Hill. Benitez and Antiveros over minus 300 as well for Benitez there. There's a lot of these sort of fights, minus 265 as well for Martin Boudet. The Yasmin Gurgaev fight against Ismail Lucindo is a bit closer, minus 184 plus 159. Yasmin is the favourite there. Gerald Mershart, then he's an underdog in his fight with Bruno Silva, minus 280 for Silva, plus 240 for Mearshart. Mearshart has been an underdog in fights before and won, so that's interesting. One line here I'm very interested in: Nina Nunes, Cindy Calvillo. Calvillo's the favourite, minus 172. Nunes plus 147. I'm not sure where Nunes is in her career at the moment. Obviously, she had time off to have a baby and then she came back and she didn't have the best result in the world. But I think her at her best, I think she beats Calvillo. Honestly, I think Calvillo was one of these fighters that was kind of massively overrated. But obviously when Dana White's saying she's going to be the next Conor McGregor and all of that. I'd be taking a punt at plus 147 there for Nunes, I think. I think that's a good price. Onama and Landwehr, plus 250 for Landwehr if you like him straight up, minus 300 for Onama. So my bet at plus 425 just for that to happen in the first round. I think that's pretty good. And a KO as well, obviously. Devin Clark plus 120, minus 140 for Murzadov. Clark has a chance. Let me see the Clark to win by KO, TKO, plus 600. I like that. Clark throws really hard. And if I was betting on him there at the plus money, I would go for the KO and bet for him to win by KO plus 600. And in the main event, I didn't have this in any of my bets because I honestly don't know. I do not know who will win between Dominic Cruz and Marlon Chito Vera. Very interesting fight. Cruz is madly, imagine saying this to someone a year ago or 18 months ago or 5 years ago, that Chito Vera would be a minus 235 favourite over the plus 200 Dominic Cruz. Ridiculous. It makes me think like I should bet in Dominic Cruz at that price, but I honestly don't know. I think this fight goes to decision. It's minus 165 and the bookies think the same. Finish inside the distance, plus 135. So that means that any of the prop bets are going to be big money. Plus 800 for Cruz KO, plus 300 for the Vera KO. No, Cruz submission plus 2,000, plus 700 for Vera. Yeah, I wouldn't go for either of them either. Very interesting. Like if the bookies are right and it does finish inside the distance, like you have to be looking at Vera to win inside the distance. It's only plus 175. Cruz win inside the distance, plus 725. I think the only tempting bet I saw here, I'm looking through this, is Cruz to win by decision at plus 225. I think that's the only tempting one. Vera wins by decision, plus 150, yeah, maybe. But I think Cruz by decision plus 225 is the only price that will tempt me here. Cruz straight up plus 200. You're probably actually better off just going for that Cruz plus straight up. But yeah, I'd avoid this one like the plague. I don't know. I have no read on this. I really have no read. There's people out there. Let me know who you're picking. If the one thing, comment section below. Who are you picking? Who, and not just who you're picking. At what price? Because Vera might be the pick here, but Vera plus minus 235. I don't know about that one. We talked last week about betting the price. I definitely wouldn't be betting the price there. So, it's an interesting one. We'll see how it goes. So we'll leave it at that. That's lots of MMA this weekend. An extra long show for everyone to get it. We're usually half an hour. We're coming up with 40 minutes here today. So, it's an interesting weekend in the world of mixed martial arts, and it should be fun. Shout out to John Brannigan, all the staff over at Sherdog.com. I appreciate you all. I am Sean Sheehan from Sherdog.com. I'll see you all next time.